Marissa, welcome to Women Finding Clarity.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure to be here.
Yes, I think you're going to bring such a breadth of information to the listeners. I think you're a perfect fit for Women Finding Clarity. So, as we're just jumping right in, let's talk about you. Let's talk about how you came to do what you're doing.
Yes, I would be happy to. I, in some ways, feel like I've been doing what I'm doing my whole life, meaning coaching and helping people to be at their best, but I haven't always done it professionally. I climbed up the corporate ladder in marketing, started my career in marketing in my early 20s, and just like in elementary school, first grade came second grade, came third grade. Once I started in marketing, I set my sights on chief marketing officer and obediently up the corporate ladder I climbed. I enjoy the function of marketing. I was pretty good at it. But now, in comparison to what I do, I recognize that there was an element of thrive and connection that I didn't quite feel. And my story took a turn in March of 2020 when I had been promoted to chief marketing officer the year before. I thought, I have arrived, here I am. And even in that role, I wasn't really as fulfilled as I thought I would be with that title. And so in March of 2020, when my role was eliminated, I was left to wrestle with some pretty big questions. I felt like my whole identity had been wrapped up in work. And without that, I was left wondering, who am I? What am I best at? Where do I want to put my professional energies? I've got a long career ahead of me unless I win the lottery. So, what do I really want to do? What are my gifts? And I spent the next year discovering that and taking some twists and turns along the way. But ultimately, what started as a whisper, maybe this coaching thing is for you. Maybe this thing that you've always been doing with peers and colleagues and vendor partners to help them be at their best, maybe that could be a thing. That whisper got louder and louder, and eventually I felt I couldn't ignore it. And in March of 2021, I told myself, I'm going to try this. I'm going to try to build a coaching business. I'm going to try it for 6 months. I'm going to invest in a coach myself, a nauseating amount of money for someone that didn't have steady income. And I said, if I can't do this, if I'm not impacting my clients, if I'm not bringing in revenue, if I don't see a path towards financial stability, then I'll go back to marketing. I'm not going to forget how to do it. I'm not going to become unmarketable. And it was that little bet on myself that really changed things. And I haven't looked back. It's been almost 3 years. It's the most fulfilled I've ever been professionally. And because I've been coached over these last 3 years, I've also just transformed so much in the business, in myself. And yeah, it's been a fun ride.
And that's what it is, right? It's a ride.
Mhm.
There are several things that you said that I kind of jotted down because I'm like, oh, we're going to circle back. The first thing was that feeling of thrive and connection. And I can absolutely see how you didn't feel that necessarily in the corporate world for yourself. And that's one of the things that we talk about so much here on the podcast is align, elevate, and thrive one conversation at a time. Can you just dig a little bit deeper into your idea of what it means to thrive?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I can. And I think it's so much richer now that I have experienced it. And based on my own experience and based on the experience of a lot of my clients and prospects, I actually think it's hard for high performing, ambitious people to notice this because they're good at a lot of things. And sometimes we think like good at something means we're thriving. And actually, it doesn't. You can be good at plenty of things and it might not feel great to you. And that could feel tenuous. That could feel like some inner tension. So for me, I sort of felt that, particularly as I was moving up the ladder, I was doing well externally, but inside, I didn't feel like the work was squarely in my zone of genius. Some of it was, some of it wasn't. If you're not familiar with that expression, it's like what you do that's really tapping into your greatest strengths. So some of the work was, some of it wasn't, and that work was really difficult, was really a grind. That feeling like you're pushing water uphill instead of feeling like you're rolling downhill. Now that I'm doing work that is really squarely aligned with my zone of genius, I feel such a lightness. I feel such an ease. I don't get burned out. I take vacations, but I don't feel like it's because, oh my gosh, I need a vacation. I just take it because I want to take it. I want to see the world and I want to explore. But it's not because the work is such a grind. So it's this alignment with zone of genius and your strengths, plus professional, like financial fulfillment. Of course, I need to make a living. And then the third piece of the puzzle is the impact. So everybody cares about different types of things. For me, the impact that I get to have on individuals and teams and audiences is so profound that it actually boosts my energy instead of other type of work that might drain my energy. So I think that's the equation. It's being in line with strengths. It's fruitful enough to make a living and not fear that, and then the impact.
Ah, ooh, that was such a great way to just summarize the whole thing. And it really did bring so much clarity around it. And, it's so great to hear other women talk about making money because I feel like that's one thing that women are kind of we shrink collectively, we shrink back when it comes to money. And we feel
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, you don't have to pay me. I'll just help you. I'll just do it. Right. But for me, there's an energetic exchange there that if you're not paying for it, you're not receiving all of the energetic goodness that you could be receiving.
Yes, I absolutely subscribe to that. And it took me learning that as a client first. And I think that that helped me to then help my clients in turn with similar obstacles. When I was searching for a coach, I interviewed a few, I had consultations with a few, and I have been very frugal. I'm raised by parents who are quite frugal. I have a lot of limiting beliefs about money that I've worked on quite a bit, but it felt like a huge expense to make. And again, I had a client paying, less than $100 a session at the time. I ended up hiring the most expensive coach, which surprised even me. But what happened was when I talked to her in a consultation, her name is Gretchen Heido. She's amazing. When I talked to her in her consultation, she was just so at ease. And when we got to talk about money, she was so at ease. And she said, "This is what it is." And she had given me a complimentary coaching session and we really moved the needle in a few key areas. And I'm like, I want to be able to do that. I want to be able to say that kind of number and sit back and say, yeah, that's what it is. And it took me seeing it and breaking down a lot of my beliefs about money and what it means. And I got so bought in because I made that big investment that my business and I took off. And now I know that that skin in the game really, really mattered.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, that's what it is, right? Is you're paying for the service that you want, that you need, that is going to help move that needle. And so it's worth it. And so a lot of times, and not in all circumstance, but a lot of times you truly do get what you pay for. And I mean, I was the same. I invested in a coach and I could have thrown up
Mm-hmm.
when I first hired my coach. And I'm like, how am I ever going to pay for this? But the fact of the matter is that when you invest in a coach, you're not investing in them, you're investing in yourself. You're
Mm-hmm.
investing in your belief in yourself. So if you
Mm-hmm.
believe that you can do it and you believe this is what you're meant to do, that's what you're investing in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I love to imagine that when I'm making an investment in coaching, the money is for the transformation in my life that will be created by virtue of this investment. And sometimes I coach coaches. They're not the majority of people who I coach, but when I'm coaching them and we're working on money, sometimes they say, this is my worth, this $6,000 or $20,000 or whatever the number is. No, it's not a price tag that's on your forehead as the coach. The price tag is going on the possibility that is created in the client's future that's a worthwhile investment. And I find that puts the coach more at ease and gets the client more bought in and excited.
Yeah. I like to think of it as not I'm asking anyone for money. It's I'm offering you this gift that I've
Mhm.
honed. And whether you take it or not, I'm not attached to that, right? But
Totally.
just know that I'm extending this gift. And if you would like to give yourself this gift, I'm here for it, right? And if you're
Mhm.
not in a position where you're ready to commit to that or you don't feel worthy of that, okay, that's a completely different
Mhm.
conversation, right? But when I extend it as a gift, because I know, like you said, the possibility that's
Mhm.
possible, the
Mhm.
transformation that's possible, that completely changes the energy of all of the conversation. Mm.
Agreed. Well
So
said.
good. So good. So part of what I do, well, all of what I do really is I teach women to turn their PhD in life into a profitable business. And something that you said there really stuck out to me for that, which is you weren't fulfilled in your role as a chief marketing officer. And so I'd love to kind of dig down a little bit into that. Like, what did it feel like? How did you know, like, this wasn't doing it for me? Where was the rub?
Yeah. It's interesting because some of it seems so obvious in hindsight. I set my sights on this role when I was so young. I didn't even know what it meant, but I just thought, okay, I'm ambitious, I'm hardworking, I'm like an A student type of mentality. That's how I'm going to focus on my career. And so if anybody ever asked me what were my career aspirations, I would say chief marketing officer. But nobody ever asked me why. And I'm glad they didn't because I don't think I would have had a good answer. I wasn't really in touch with anything under the hood as to what was really driving me, besides the optics of it, besides what we're taught as a society is a successful career, which is just this linear climb, up we go, and then you end somewhere with chief, fill in the blank function that you're in, and there you go. Um, so I got the title, and I think my subconscious was expecting like a wave of fulfillment to just happen the day that my new business cards arrived. That's so silly now, but I do think that's sort of what I thought. And so when I was in the role and noticing, like I said before, some of the parts of the job I was great at, felt like it was right in my element, but then there were some other things that really weren't. It was a challenge, and then I was really judging myself and really shaming myself. Like, what did I get myself into? Oh, and by the way, like I worked this hard to get here, and now what? I'm just going to be in these roles for indefinitely. And
Yeah.
chief marketing officers, even more than other functions at the top of the ladder, tend to have a high turnover. So I was like in my own head about what's that going to mean? A little bit of stress and insecurity. I underestimated the stress and pressure of having a boss, the CEO, who didn't know anything about marketing, because before you get to that seat, your boss theoretically knows more than you do about the function. That was another enormous obstacle that created some inner turmoil for me. So yeah, I just I wasn't thriving on a number of fronts, and there were probably other reasons why that role in particular wasn't the right fit for me. But I think even broadly, as I started thinking, well, even if I did this somewhere else, I don't know that that would be the best fit. In fact, I got some evidence to prove that true because when my role got eliminated, I started looking for full-time work and I got a coach certification, more to keep myself busy. I think deep down I knew maybe this could be something, but I was too scared to acknowledge it as anything more than let's do something for the recruiters to know that I'm developing my skills. And I took a chief marketing officer job at a coaching company a few months later, thinking, hey, good blend of my interests and my functional expertise. And it was, I felt that it was a better fit, but I was coaching on the side because, as you know, to get your certification, you have to coach a bunch of hours. And the company knew about it and it was fine. So I was coaching on the side and I was running marketing during the day. And the difference of how I felt in the coaching hours was just so profound. And then the day job was like, It was okay. It wasn't terrible. It wasn't, the worst. I wasn't needing to run out of there, but I just knew. And so eventually I thought to myself, if not now, when? Let's do this.
Love that. And I love how the universe just kind of lined it up for you that,
Oh, yes.
okay, I had this job, but also I was coaching on the side. And that is a very clear A/B test, right?
Yeah. Most
Yeah.
people don't get that opportunity. I feel very lucky that I got to compare and feel instead of feeling like I needed to make a leap, not knowing.
Yeah. One of the things that I tell people is that even if the job that you have doesn't feel like it's what you want to do forever, and you want to start your own business, whether it be coaching or speaking or healing, whatever the modality, that job that maybe isn't your dream job is funding your startup.
Mhm.
And so if you can shift your mindset around the drudgery of going into this job that doesn't light you up, that doesn't make you feel like you're thriving, to I'm doing this because it's paying the bills and it's funding my startup until that can pay the bills, then
Mhm.
that completely changes everything.
Yeah, I can see how that would be powerful, even in setting more clear boundaries and having a healthier mindset with a work dynamic that might not be ideal, to have that other belief that it's fueling your passion. Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. And you very clearly demonstrated this idea that, as human beings, we're always searching, aren't we? We're always looking for the next thing. And so we think that, oh, that chief whatever title is going to fulfill us and we're going to feel like I have arrived. But the reality is, the enjoyment is the journey to that place. Because
Mhm.
once you reach that place, and you've celebrated and you've got your new business cards, like you said, now what? Now you've got another goal in mind. If you're lucky,
Mhm.
if you're blessed, if you're a forward thinker, some people don't have another goal in mind and they think, okay, this is it for the rest of my life. The joy is in the journey to the thing that we think that we want. What we actually want is the journey to the thing. Because once we get the thing, we want the next thing. And the joy again becomes the journey to the next thing.
Yeah. Yes. Agreed.
So good. I want to circle back to one more thing that you said that really just kind of caught my eye was that it started as a whisper. I feel like that's a song. I feel like I break out in song right now. But when
Yeah.
you realize that maybe this isn't the thing that I thought was going to light me up, let's talk about the whisper a little bit. What does that look like
Yeah.
if someone else is like, am I experiencing the whisper? I mean, I'm not
Mhm.
fulfilled right now. What's the whisper? What did that look like for you?
Yeah. It was such an important evolution because I realized, and like now I see it so clearly, I had suppressed my intuition completely, for the most part, over the course of my career and replaced it with praise, criticism, mentors, advisement, external benchmarks of success, of which there were many, but those guideposts were what was keeping me on track. So instead of having an internal motor pushing me towards anything, I was using kind of the bumpers of the bowling alley of mentors and advisors and praise and where I was getting asked to go and interview. It was so external by the time I got to that point. And that had served me well. Like I have on paper, my resume looked great and successful career and financially doing well. Like there was nothing inherently wrong with that I felt like there needed to be any intervention. But I didn't tune in even when I was evaluating taking the chief marketing officer job. So I left a VP of marketing job to go to a different company to be a chief marketing officer. And I remember like going to 10 mentors who I really admired and respected and asked them, and was looking at this company's financials and the role and the compensation. And I didn't do any sitting with myself. How, do I want this job? How might the day to day feel? What do I know about the culture? Is it one in which I'm most likely to thrive? I can rattle off these questions now because I asked them to my clients, but I was not turning to myself at all. I was looking outside the window for answers, and that had served me. So, to the whisper. When I was out of work, I had more space and alone time. Also, we all remember what was going on in March of 2020. It was COVID. So I really, really had quiet. And I did a assessment in a book called The Genius Habit, written by Laura Garnett. It's amazing. I went on to do some work with her. She's fabulous. And I noticed my genius was all around helping people to perform at their best. I named it Talent Maximizer. And then I was in this coach certification that I told myself and told everyone else that it was to be marketable for another chief marketing officer job. And as I was in that, I started feeling like, oh, I'm good at this in my head. Like I have a knack for this, relative to the people in the class and just how it felt inside. Like, can I do this? I started just feeling really good, imagining, dreaming about this type of work. And same thing when I had that A-B comparison, right? It was like how I felt in the moment of doing the work. Like, this would be so cool. There's so much ease, there's so much richness in this. What if I could expand this art? That's what the whisper was encouraging me to explore.
Yeah. And I mean, I feel like you kind of hit the nail on the head right there with what if?
Mm-hmm.
What if? Because when we're feeling kind of locked in and like, okay, this is it forever, just being able to ask yourself, what if it could be different? That just starts to open up. Like we walk through life with these blinders on, and every time you stop and ask yourself, what if, it just ticks the blinders out a little bit wider and then a
Mm-hmm.
little bit wider, where you're opening yourself up to more and more possibility.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that's beautiful. And, what you were saying, I completely resonate with. It's allowing yourself the space and giving yourself the time and being quiet
Mm-hmm.
and just turning within and listening. And what is it that I want? What does resonate with me? What kind of culture is it that I would want to show up to every day? And if you can't find that, maybe the answer is creating it for yourself,
Mm-hmm.
creating something different and new that's not out there that you wouldn't, you know, the only way sometimes to have it is to create it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely.
So
And I
beautiful.
think in terms of getting in touch with this whisper, like the two themes that I think worked for me and still work for me, and therefore might work for your listeners, is one, slow down, way slow yourself down. And if you're like me, a mover and a groover, that'll feel really uncomfortable. Slowing down and then really like turning down the volume on all of the outside noise until the only one is yours. Also really, really hard. And you might think, but there's these smart people that care about me, that are wise, that are ahead of me in the journey or whatever else, and society and my parents or my kids or my peer set, like all this external noise, which, maybe sometimes is helpful in different settings, but really building up the discipline to be able to turn the volume down on those temporarily so that you can really hear what you've got going on, to the answer to that what if or those other lovely prompts that you suggested, or just free write whatever comes out.
Free write is my most favorite because I'm always surprised at what comes out, no matter what the topic is
Mm-hmm.
or no matter my mood. So for people in corporate who are like, okay, I might be hearing a whisper, but I don't know how to slow down. Do you have
Mm.
any tips and tricks on that? Slowing down for the corporate minded person who's go, 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 um, do, win, win, win.
Yeah. I'm giggling because I don't know who said this quote or saying, but if you're about meditating, which is that if you're someone that says they don't have time to meditate once a day, then you need to be meditating twice a day.
Yeah,
So, like
I
the
have heard
same,
that.
it's similar for slowing down. If someone says they don't know how to slow down, I might say, if they're a client I've been working with for a while, honestly, I would say, yeah, you do. You just don't want to. If
Right.
I told you that I would give you $1 million in cash right now, if you can slow yourself down, I bet you'd figure out a way to do it. What would you do? So it's not a concept that's like, here's how we do brain surgery. I'm going to teach you A, B, and C. When someone says they don't know how to slow down, I think what they're really saying, that the truth is that they're uncomfortable slowing down. They're afraid of what might happen when they slow down because they've never been there. And that fear is totally reasonable. And I get it because that was me too. So, what I'd offer is instead of like, here's the step by step, sit in a meditation chair or go to a coffee shop or go to the beach, it's more just give yourself the invitation to be with the discomfort of a slow pace for 3 minutes. That doesn't have to be, a week-long silent retreat with the monks, right? Like, here's the invitation. You can sit with discomfort of slowing down and being with yourself for 3 minutes. You're resilient enough to try that and see what comes through. And that's it, like lessen the intensity, the bigness, and be open to totally like being so compassionate with you're not gonna like it. It's gonna be uncomfortable.
And that's okay.
And that's totally okay.
It's part of the process, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. Oh, I feel like I could talk to you so much because I'm not a corporate, I don't have a corporate history. And
Mhm.
so we're speaking the same language, we're saying the same things, and yet we're approaching them from different places.
Mhm.
And so it's just also interesting to me, you know, being able to slow down and to tune into what are my strengths? What is it that lights me up? What do you find? Is there an overall norm, I guess I would say, that you see from people in corporate where maybe the discomfort of slowing down or being able to see their strengths outside of what their corporate job
Mm.
really defines them as?
One theme that I notice, I don't know if it's a norm, but certainly like a consistent theme. I'll use language from a book called Playing Big by Tara Moore. I don't know if you've read it. I think you'd enjoy it. If you haven't, add it to your list.
Thank you.
She has this idea called unhooking from praise and criticism. And I use that language because that is what it feels like. I notice, and I was this too. We're hooked on external praise and criticism, and we use that to kind of guide our own thinking of ourselves, of our possibilities, of our strengths, of where we should go next. And there might be some valuable data points that you get from people who've worked with and for and around you, certainly. So I'm not saying throw that out the window, but actually starting with your own knowledge of yourself. Because if you've never been in a job that is really tapping into your zone of genius and your passion, people who work in that environment with you can't possibly reflect to you what's true for you, right? Where you might go next or how you might expand upon the seedlings of a passion or an idea that you have that's not related to what it is that you're doing. So I noticed this over reliance on external validation, praise and criticism in the corporate world that can be a disservice to people, especially if they're feeling a little bit inside like that there's not everything is aligned. This is this really it for me? Is this it? And they're telling themselves, I hope not. So yeah, I think that's a big one. What else? I think that there is a fear of leaving a ladder that they've been on for a long time. So the deeper that they get, it's almost the sunk cost fallacy. If you're familiar with that, like, well, I've been in marketing for 15 years, so how could I possibly make a pivot? Instead of thinking about the journey of themselves as a wholehearted human and leader with strengths that could be applied in many functions and companies and ladders or for themselves than the ones that they're at. So a bit of a limited, you talked about having blinders. I think that limitation and the fear that's created by the blinders is another fairly common theme.
And that makes so much sense because we fear the unknown. Our
Right.
brains want us to stay in what's comfortable, in what we know is safe and is a sure thing. And so, this idea of leaning into the unknown can be so uncomfortable for people that they can't allow
Mhm.
themselves to do it. And so, little by little, being able to just lean into your edge of discomfort can help you
Mhm.
over time expand more and more.
Mhm.
And I completely resonate with that idea of just fearing what you don't know and leaning into the sure thing, leaning into, okay, the ladder is stable. And
Mhm.
I'll know I'm successful if I reach the next benchmark.
Mhm.
Yeah. There was something else around that I wanted to ask you. And everything you say, I've got like three more things that it brings up. And so let's talk a little bit about how you work with your clients. How do they find you? And what does it look like if someone were to hire you as their coach?
Uh, well, listeners can learn more about me at my website, marissalfernandez.com. That's not typically where people find me. Most people find me through word of mouth and referrals. I'm
That's the
also pretty
best.
active on LinkedIn. So if anyone's interested in consuming some of my content there, I welcome followers and connections. uh, when people work with me. So I typically work with clients on a one-on-one basis for 6 or 12 months. Most commonly, people will start out with 6 months, sometimes 12, very unusually shorter than that. That's been an evolution in the business because what I've realized is that the results of my coaching tend to be exponential, not linear. And so the longer coaching engagements allow for much more transformation in the clients, in themselves, in their lives. They get into a rhythm, a habit of noticing and challenging their own limiting beliefs. And we go from the goals that are on paper at the beginning of a coaching engagement, we usually get to a deeper understanding of like what's really at play here, which we don't always know at the start. And I work with those one on one clients every other week over the course of those 6 to 12 months. And what it looks like is really different depending on the person. It's hard to describe, but as I've learned to tune into my own intuition and inner wisdom, right, which I believe is a critical requirement of a coach to be able to do to help others navigate towards their own inner wisdom.
Yeah.
What do you need? Where do you want to get to? What is the next domino that you think needs to fall? And let's go there. Uh, and over the course of the coaching, there's inquiry, reflection, some challenge, some laughter. I like to keep it light in my sessions. And after 6 or 12 months, we reflect back and say, what's different about your relationship to yourself and what has changed as a result of that. So that's the core of the work that I do. I will say there's a few other parts of the business. I facilitate workshops, leadership offsites. I speak with some regularity, most often on the topic of confidence. I have a talk called Confidence on Demand that teaches people to ignite their own sense of confidence. So I've diversified a bit. One-on-one work is the core. And next year, I'll start a new program that I haven't done before, supporting coaches in the launch phase, because I'm so passionate about helping people who are where I was not too long ago.
That is beautiful. And so this new program, is it one-on-one or is it going to be a group program?
It is both. So I sat with myself and my free journaling and thought, what would have been ideal for me? And I had it pretty good. I had a one-on-one coach. It was fantastic. And so I designed what I thought would be great. And the inspiration for this was I was hearing from several people who maybe they had started their certification or they were thinking about starting it, or maybe they left their full-time job and were in the early days of pursuing a business of becoming a coach. And either they knew me or they had heard of me through a friend or connection, and the person said, "Oh, Marissa's doing great and thriving and has a prosperous business. You should talk to her. You should talk to her." And I had one of those conversations, two, three, five. The more I heard a few key themes, I heard these coaches who, like you and I, feel deeply like connected and called to this type of work. Like, this is what we're supposed to be doing. They all felt that. And then they feel this giant fear of unknown. How do I enroll clients? What do I charge? Can I make money? I'm a breadwinner in my family. Like, all the fear and uncertainty that's keeping them on the tarmac, which is why I call the program Takeoff, because it's about, getting their businesses off the tarmac.
I love it.
And the program includes, the core of it is one-on-one coaching. That was transformative and helpful for me. The one-on-one coaching and consulting is about you, your specific limiting beliefs, mindset, attitude, budget, enrollment process, packages, branding, everything. So there's a heavy component of one-on-one. Let's get in, roll up our sleeves, and I can be your co-pilot on this business. And then there's a group component. I did not have this when I first launched. I have it now, a community of a small handful of coaches that are in the same phase of their business, that challenge me, that encourage me, that celebrate my wins as if it was their own, that help me when I feel stuck. I'm creating that as part of the group program. So in addition to the one-on-one support, you have a monthly mastermind with people who, they are successful already. And I am of the belief that they're not new coaches. They're new to the business of running a coaching business, but they've been doing this for their whole careers, some their whole lives. And now it's about making money and making it their career, turning their calling into a career. So that's the program.
I love it so much. And I love how it's called Takeoff and you're the co-pilot. And that's just all, it makes it so clear as to what you're doing. So fantastic. And,
Thank you.
as we're kind of closing up here, coming to an end, is there anything that you'd like to offer listeners?
What I'd like to offer listeners is, the desires that you have are worthy, are achievable, are enough. I want everyone to feel this permission to release either the judgment or the perceived judgment or predicted judgment, which is probably worse than the actual. It was in my case.
Almost
To,
always.
yeah, like, if you could turn down the fear of judgment or failure and do what you wanted, what would you do? And take a little leap towards that in 2024, right? 'Tis the season of resolutions and setting goals and dreams for the future year. Like, what if you just gave that desire a little bit of space in the year ahead? What could that mean? How much fun could that bring you? How much energy? How much feeling of thrive? That's what I want for everyone, including all of your listeners. And if I can help, I hope that they will reach out.
For sure. And I will put your contact information in show notes so it's as easy as click and go. Marissa, this has been an amazing conversation. Thank you so much for being here and bringing all your joy, all your wisdom, all your clarity to women finding clarity.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a joy.